My family texted, "We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely." That's what the message said, glowing coldly on my phone screen while the ceiling fan hummed above me. I stared at the words until they blurred. My uncle's name appeared next. He's the one who packed up their things. He'll bring them back tomorrow. It was final, delivered like a receipt after a purchase. My name is Elena. I'm 29. And if you've ever had your own blood decide you're disposable, maybe you'll understand why my hands didn't shake. Only my chest did. I didn't reply with begging. I didn't ask why. I simply wrote, "Of course. I'll cancel my direct deposits first thing." Because every month, like clockwork, I'd wired thousands into their accounts. Tuition, rent, groceries, vacations I was never invited on. They needed distance, but not enough to push away my money. Have you ever had family cross your boundaries while still living off your veins? Let me know in the comments, because sometimes silence makes you feel like you're the only one drowning. On the coffee table, a framed photo of us at Thanksgiving leaned against the lamp. My face was already half hidden by glare, as though the room itself knew I was fading from the story. I lifted the photo, traced the cracked glass across my smile, and whispered, not to them, but to myself, maybe distance is the only gift left to give. The glass gleamed back at me like an answer. The next morning, the apartment felt too quiet, like even the air had taken sides. The text still sat on my phone, unanswered beyond my one line. I placed the device face down, but the silence hummed louder than any ringtone. My uncle arrived around noon. He didn't knock gently, just shoved the door open with the authority of someone who thought he owned the space. Cardboard boxes filled his arms, already sealed with heavy tape. "You still wear that perfume?" he muttered, wrinkling his nose, as though scent itself was proof of arrogance. He stacked the boxes in the hall without meeting my eyes. A decoy line, but it cut. I sat on the sofa, arms wrapped around my knees. "You didn't even ask if I was okay," I said. My voice sounded foreign, too steady for the wreckage inside. His shrug was sharp. "They don't want contact, Elena. I'm just here to move their stuff." His words clattered like coins dropped on tile. No warmth, no apology, just duty carried out like eviction. From the corner of the room, the photo frame I'd touched last night glimmered under a shaft of sunlight. The crack across the glass looked deeper now, splitting me right down the middle. As he carried out the last box, I whispered to the empty apartment, "They wanted distance. I'll give it to them, but they'll feel every inch of it." The fan above me clicked once, like punctuation. By evening, the apartment was hollow. The spaces where their things had lived, coats, spare dishes, even the blanket I'd bought my mother last winter, now stood bare like missing teeth in a smile. I walked through slowly, fingers grazing empty shelves. It struck me that they hadn't just asked for distance. They'd erased their presence from my life like I was a stranger they regretted knowing. My phone buzzed once more. Another message, this time from my cousin, the only one who sometimes spoke up for me. "I don't agree with how they're handling this, but I can't say anything. You know how it is." I stared at those words until they ached. Loyalty was a currency no one seemed willing to spend. I sat down at my desk, opened my banking app, and hovered over the scheduled transfers. Row after row, $1,200 for Dad's utilities, $800 for Mom's medical bills, $600 for my sister's car insurance. The list scrolled on like a record of invisible chains I'd willingly worn. One tap and they disappeared. Each cancellation was a tiny release, though my chest clenched with both fear and relief. Outside, the city lights flickered on. Through the window, I saw families heading to dinner together, laughter carrying through the night. I leaned my head against the cool glass. "They think distance will save them," I whispered. But money was the only bridge left, and I just burned it. The crack in the photo frame seemed to smile with me. The next morning, I brewed coffee I didn't drink. The smell curled through the empty kitchen, bitter and heavy, settling into the silence like dust. My phone remained face down on the counter, no new messages. Not even a thank you for years of sacrifice. Instead, the knock came late afternoon. My uncle again, this time without boxes, only a folded envelope pinched between his fingers. "They asked me to give you this," he said, eyes sliding past mine like I wasn't there. He left before I could answer, the door shutting with a flat, final sound. I opened the envelope. Inside, a single-page letter, and signed but unmistakable. "We hope you understand. We need peace in our lives. Your presence brings tension. Please don't make this harder by trying to reconnect." The words blurred, but the meaning stayed sharp. They wanted peace? Well, they drained every ounce of mine. I set the letter down beside the photo frame. The crack across my face seemed wider in the shifting light, like even glass couldn't hold me together anymore. I wanted to scream, to tear the page into ribbons. Instead, I laughed, a hollow sound that startled even me, because hidden beneath their request for peace was fear. They knew what cutting me off meant. No more lifeline. No more quiet rescues. "Peace," I murmured, folding the letter back into the envelope. "Let's see how peaceful life feels without me funding it." The kettle clicked off behind me unnoticed. That night, sleep refused me. I lay awake listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the occasional car on the street below, and the sharp tick of the wall clock. Each sound felt like a reminder that the world kept moving while mine had stalled. At 3 a.m., I sat at the desk again. The banking app glowed against the dark, showing not just the transfers I'd canceled, but the savings I still held. For years, I'd funneled most of it away to them, leaving myself scraps. Now the numbers blinked like a secret I had finally remembered to claim. My cursor hovered over a new button, schedule, transfer. But this time, I set it to my own account, an investment fund I'd ignored for too long. My money finally working for me. A tremor of power shivered through me, almost frightening in its clarity. The next day, my cousin called, voice trembling. "They're panicking. Bills are piling already. Mom said you're punishing them." I closed my eyes, letting the words seep in like warm water. "No," I said quietly. "I'm just giving them what they asked for, distance." There was a pause. Then, softer, almost guilty, "I wish I had your courage." I glanced at the photo frame. The crack caught sunlight, dividing my smile from theirs. Maybe the fracture had always been there. I just refused to see it. "Courage," I whispered. Or maybe it's just finally breathing after years underwater. The glass sparkled back like a yes. By the weekend, the silence had grown teeth. No messages, no apologies, only absence, gnawing at the edges of my days. I walked to the market just to hear voices, to remind myself I wasn't invisible. The chatter of strangers felt kinder than anything my family had offered. Back home, another envelope waited at my door. No return name, but I recognized my father's handwriting on the back. Inside, a single sheet. "We didn't mean to hurt you, but your support has made us dependent. We need space to rebuild. Please understand." The words were softer this time, almost repentant. Yet all I could see between the lines was fear. Fear of bills, of rent, of life without my quiet funding. I placed the letter beside the first. The two sheets lay like courtroom evidence, flimsy paper trying to justify years of weight on my shoulders. That night, I poured wine and sat across from the cracked photo frame, as though it were an opponent across the table. The fracture in the glass had begun to splinter outward, fine threads reaching into the background. My family's faces blurred behind the web, while mine, though split, still looked sharp. I lifted my glass. "Here's to distance," I said. My voice was steady now, the kind that sets me free, not them. The clink of glass against wood echoed like a verdict. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone. Monday morning, my inbox chimed with an email flagged urgent. It was from my mother, the same woman who hadn't called me in weeks. "Elena, the mortgage is overdue. Your father is furious. Can you help one last time? We'll reconsider the distance if you just wire the funds. The word reconsider stung. Not reconciliation. Not love. A transaction dangled like bait. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Outside, sunlight spilled across the floorboards, carving sharp lines that felt like boundaries drawn by nature itself. For a moment, I thought of replying. Old habits whispered, "Fix it, save them, earn their love." But the photo frame on the table caught the light again. The crack glimmered like a scar, and I realized something. I had been financing the very rope they used to tie me down. I typed slowly, deliberately, "You asked for distance. I'm honoring it. I hope you find peace, the kind money can't buy." My finger hovered, then pressed send. A weight lifted, and the silence that followed was different, not hollow, but whole, like a room finally cleared of clutter. I placed the frame face down, no longer needing its fractured reminder. Have you ever reached that moment when letting go feels louder than holding on? If you have, you know, it's not the end of family. It's the start of yourself. The room seemed to exhale with me. Days slipped by, and the silence that once clawed at me began to soften. I filled my mornings with walks, evenings with books I'd never had time for, and weekends with the quiet luxury of not waiting for the next request to arrive. One afternoon, my cousin visited unannounced. She stood awkwardly in the doorway, holding a grocery bag like an offering. "They're unraveling," she admitted. "Bills unpaid, arguments nonstop. They keep saying you abandon them." I took the bag, set it on the counter, and poured her tea. "I didn't abandon anyone," I said. "I stopped abandoning myself." She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the shift. Respect, maybe envy, maybe hope. "You're different," she whispered. The cracked photo frame still sat on my table, but now it faced outward. I hadn't fixed the glass. The break had become the point. A reminder that fracture doesn't mean failure. It means proof you survived. That night, I drafted a letter of my own. Not to them, but to me. A promise. I will never pay for belonging again. I will belong to myself first. I tucked it behind the photo, the words hidden, but alive. And as the lamp clicked off, the room settled around me. Not empty, not lonely, but mine. If this ever happened to you, if family confused love with dependency, just say same in the comments. You'll know what I mean.